Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular town council meeting for Tuesday, November 14th. Please rise for a moment of silence. Lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, thanks for joining us. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Fishbein,
Here.
Laffin,
Here.
Letourneau,
Here.
Marone,
Here.
Shortell,
Here.
Sullivan,
Here.
Testa,
Here.
Zandri, and Chairman Cervoni.
Here. Councilor Zandri did advise me that work obligations would be a problem for this evening. On to item 3, the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve consent agenda items A through P.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes. Item 4, there are no items removed from the consent agenda. On to item 5, the public question and answer period. Mr. Gross.
Good evening, Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. It could go to the chair, but also I think Attorney Small then. Can you give us an update on Lend-Lease and the solar panels and what's going on over there?
We're still in the option phase, but if you come to the town hall Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. in room 315, Lend-Lease will be there to do a public meet and greet and answer questions about their particular project, if you'd like to indulge yourself. But they're going through, they're still doing their due diligence on the analysis of the site itself, and they're putting together their application to go to the siting council.
Is it 6:30? I was under the understanding it's 7 o'clock on Thursday.
Did you see an advertisement saying 7?
Yes.
Oh, well, then I guess it's 7, but I thought it was supposed to be 6:30. I didn't see the advertisement, although I heard there was one.
In the Record Journal, let me just take a look then.
Yeah,
because
I thought it was
just because since you said 6:30, it says the public is invited to attend an open house on Thursday, November 16th from 7 p.m.
Okay.
at Wallingford Town Hall, room 315.
All right, I thought it was going to be 6:30, but all right, so it's 7 p.m.
Okay.
It's sort of a, just so you know, if you didn't see the advertisement, it's a meet and greet. If you want to come and ask any questions, it's there for public information purposes.
So you're still working out your lease, and they're just doing their
They're doing their due diligence.
whether it's going to be beneficial for them to do it.
Well, whether it works or not, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're not going to do it if it's not beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from Bob Gross, Long Hill Road?
Do I have to repeat it then?
You should.
Okay, Bob Gross, Long Hill Road. A few meetings ago, the police chief was here, and I don't remember what meeting it was. And maybe this could go to Mr. Bose. He asked for some money, a transfer. And the transfer was because of overtime of the patrol officers manning construction sites. Do you remember this meeting? Okay, you're nodding yes.
Yes.
Okay, and the money I think came from, that's the question.
So, Mr. Bose, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what happens is we have to pay the officers for the overtime associated with being at construction sites, but the contractor then reimburses us. So it doesn't, it's a net zero.
And I understand that. Where did the money come from the town up front? The upfront money come from?
Well, the police put an amount in their budget, excuse me, every year. There's a corresponding revenue in the revenue component of the budget as well. There's a line item for that. So technically, it's a wash to the taxpayers. As you drive around town, you know, especially with the, a lot of the Amtrak project and things of that nature going throughout town, he's running short on that line item, so he asked, it wasn't a transfer per se, it's actually an appropriation. It changes our budget, so we add $200,000, I believe was the amount,
Right.
to that revenue line item, as well as $200,000 to that expenditure line item for the overtime. So again, it's a wash.
But it came from contingency? I'm trying to remember to...
No, it actually doesn't come from contingency. It actually increases our authorized budget on both sides of the equation, the revenues and the expenditures.
That's what I thought, but I thought the money came from somewhere. That's why I was...
No, it comes from the folks who we bill and they pay. So
Right, but he needed the money up front, he said. So that's why I was confused. What was said was, and that's why I don't remember what meeting it was, I would go, because Scott Hanley does a wonderful job with government TV, having them online now for anybody who wants to watch an old meeting, but I couldn't find it. And I don't remember what meeting it was, but I thought, and that's why I'm questioning, and I understand it's a wash to the town, the contractor's gonna pay back, but I thought that it came, and I understand what you said, but if I remember correctly, I thought the money came from contingency, and that's why I thought it was weird.
no, it wouldn't come from contingency.
All right.
It
so-
actually increases both sides of the
Does
authorized
anybody
budget.
remember what meeting that was then, is the question?
It wasn't very long ago.
Right.
I believe I was here, one of my nights to be here.
Would there have been a line item on the agenda?
It was on the consent agenda, I believe.
And it was removed because somebody must have asked about it then, because the police chief talked about it,
Oh, okay, then I must not have been
Okay.
here for it.
right? Didn't he talk?
I don't believe so. I
I don't
thought it stayed
remember
on
that.
consent myself.
Okay.
I do not remember a conversation about it.
But it was in the consent agenda then?
Yes.
And it was for 200,000. So I'll go find it, and then if it's
If you
different.
want to give me a ring tomorrow, and I'll dig it up from, I don't have all the minutes from the meetings here,
Yeah,
but
that's fine. Thank you.
yeah, you got it.
Thank you. Anything else for public question and answer? There being none, I close the public question and answer period. Item 6 has been withdrawn, but we do have 2 items that have been added by special request. So I need a motion to waive Rule 5.
Mr. Chairman, I move we waive Rule 5 to discuss a request for an emergency transfer in the amount of $6,922 to set up a capital account to replace and install a rooftop air conditioning and heating unit at the Park and Recreation Building at 6 Fairfield Boulevard.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to waive Rule 5? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The waiver is granted. Mr. McCully, come up. Would you please move the item?
I move that we approve an emergency transfer in the amount of $6,922 to set up a capital account to replace and install a rooftop air conditioning and heating unit at the Park and Recreation Building, 6 Fairfield Boulevard, and the money will be transferred from the maintenance of building and grounds account.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. McCully, why don't you come up just in case people have any questions? I mean, the matter seems somewhat obvious. We have a failed unit that needs to be replaced and probably shouldn't wait in light of the current weather, but if you could tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the unit, the Park and Rec is 13 years old, and there's a problem getting parts, and these things are used constantly, and therefore the replacement.
Questions for Mr. McCully? Mr. Marone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually have a question for Mr. Bose. Obviously the unit needs to be replaced. I have no issue with that. I guess my question is, why not just spend the money out of the maintenance of building fund and why put it into a special account? before we spend it?
That's a good question, because these are more, we try to identify the capital items in the capital section of each departmental budget, just for classification. And also so that it doesn't really skew what we would normally pay annually when we go back and look at these things for regular, ordinary, routine sort of maintenance of the building and the grounds.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Henry. Henry, this is just one unit?
Yes.
Are there more than one units that heat and cool that building?
I believe we have 3 or 4 over the gymnasium. Then we have the classroom office areas. I'm going to say we have 6 or 7 units in that building.
Are they all the same?
They're all different sizes.
They're all different sizes,
Yeah,
but
to cover
are they all about the same age?
When we renovated the building, some of them stayed. The part of the building that was totally renovated was a gymnasium, so they got new ones.
Okay.
The other ones have been switched and repaired.
And do we currently have a maintenance program on these where they're?
Yes, we do.
We do? Okay.
Yes.
And the other units, to the best of your knowledge, and I'm not going to hold you to it, but to the best of your knowledge, are in good condition?
We have, there's a line item in my budget to replace 2 units
Okay.
this year. Have been identified as needing replacement.
Okay. And Henry, is this unit just totally out right now?
Yes.
It is?
It's the area it covers is the daycare area.
Okay.
But they've been able to move the children to other areas of the building pending this replacement.
And once we approve the money, Henry, how quickly can this thing be?
Tomorrow, I
Okay.
can get, they have to order the unit.
Okay.
And we have a contractor under bid that does this work, and part of their bid is purchasing the unit and installing it.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Henry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the council? Counselor Morone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Jim, just one follow-up question. So we take this out of the maintenance budget, we put it in a capital accounts budget, so how would we, so it says new capital account. So this is a new account, not previously used. So how would we keep track of items that failed, say, going forward?
You'll see in the monthly reports that you get, you'll see a new line item within the public works budget, and you'll see that in the adjusted column for $6,922 with the identification. We assign an account number to it after the council approves it, but it'll all be within Mr. McCauley's budget.
Okay, thank you.
The same thing for the next item. It's the same exact thing.
Thank you.
Questions from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Letourneau,
Yes.
Morone,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Sullivan, Testa,
Yes.
and Chairman Cervoni.
Yes, that motion passes. I need another motion to waive Rule 5 for the train station.
I move we waive Rule 5 to discuss a request for an emergency transfer in the amount of $3,340 to set up a capital account to replace and install a furnace at the historic train station, Adult Education Building, 37 Hall Avenue.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion on the motion to waive Rule 5? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion to waive Rule 5 passes. And now a motion on the item, please.
I move we approve an emergency transfer in the amount of $3,340 to set up a capital account to replace and install a furnace at the historic train station Adult Education Building at 37 Hall Avenue to be transferred from the maintenance of building and grounds account.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. McCulley, what have you for us this time?
This furnace is 27 years old, and again, it's obsolete replacement parts. And it's just worn out.
And it's failed and the building is cold.
Yes, an area of the building is cold.
Okay. But how's the other part of it being kept warm?
Well, they open the doors and it's not ideal, but we like to replace it as soon as we can.
Okay. Thank you. Questions on this item? Councilor Testa.
Thank you. Good evening, Henry.
Evening.
Is this one boiler for the whole building?
No, it's for part of the building.
So the other one's okay?
Yes.
Does this bring the building up to a point where, regardless of what we decide over time to do with it, it's sufficient to take, the whole building is sufficiently covered with heating?
Yes. Yes. They're getting by now. We give them some space heaters and so forth.
No, I wouldn't question that. I'm just curious if since we're replacing a furnace, if there would potentially be a need down the road to upgrade to heat a part of the building we may or may not be using or might be using differently. So if we're going to do this, is this going to provide enough heating for the whole building?
The building will be fine with the addition of the new unit.
Thank you.
Councilor Sullivan.
Henry, is this gas or oil?
I believe it's gas.
I was going to say, it's very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
Because, just for my home furnace, it's over $6,000.
Yeah.
So it looks like we got a pretty good deal here. And to Councilor Testa's question, how many other furnaces or heat sources are currently in that building? Do we know?
I believe there's 4. There's 2 down at the adult ed side, and there's 2 at the daycare side.
Okay.
Go through the
So
building.
we have 4 heaters heating that
Yeah.
building, huh? Wow. Okay, I'm good. Thanks, Henry.
Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Henry.
Evening.
So, the train station, the historic train station, is currently used for adult ed and a daycare?
Yes.
And those are the only uses?
The train enthusiasts have used the basement. It's
Is it for modern-
they had the model railroad has a lease there, a year-to-year lease.
Okay, and do they have any obligation as far as,
They do pay. Maybe Janice can remember. I usually get sent to Janice and she sends it to me. I can't remember how much it is.
I thought Janice was our train enthusiast, but it's okay. I just question, we see these kinds of things on the Board of Ed budget, capital expenditures.
Yes.
I guess we haven't, am I to assume that we haven't crossed that line where the train station comes within the purview of the Board of Ed? It's still quasi-general government?
Well, it's our building.
Yeah.
Board of Ed uses most of it, as you know, for adult ed. That's the primary function of the building.
Okay, so if we
The
have,
railroad guys have been there for excess of 10 years, I think.
but generally if we had a heating unit that went at one of the schools, would it come out of your budget?
No.
Or would it come out of the Board of Ed budget?
Board of Ed, yeah.
Okay, so essentially that's my question. If the Board of Ed is utilizing the majority of this structure, why are we taking it from general government?
It's the building comes under the purview of the town of Public Works, always has. I've never known it to be any other way.
Okay, so because that's the way we've always done it.
It's always, yes.
Okay.
Probably because it was actually a train station.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So.
But it isn't. So, okay, I guess we just haven't had that discussion, so.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
actually, they had adult ed in there and ran it as a train station. Because they didn't use Amtrak didn't use the entire building.
yes, nor did Amtrak pay for the heating and all of that.
I'm sure, yes, I'm sure, yeah.
So, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Councilor Shortell.
This isn't really a question for Henry, just a comment on Vice Chair Laffin and I are on the POCD Implementation Committee, and the recommendation for the train station is one of our agenda items. So I would be looking for that. Is that me? Closer? Sorry, it's my first time. I'd be looking for that next year.
That didn't fix it.
But we'll be looking into that. To Councilor Fishbein's point about, decision hasn't been made, that's something that's on our radar. And we had some preliminary discussions with the superintendent, and they're in there 5 or 6 days a week for adult ed, so they have a pretty heavy usage. So we need to really look at that. But, we viewed it as the town building when we looked at it, as something we would make a recommendation toward. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Laffin.
And to piggyback that, it's only stopped officially being the train station for like a week or so. So I think it's we're at the point now where we have to figure out what we're going to do with that building. But in the meantime, we have just the town has kept control of the building. I don't know if there's a lease or an agreement or an official transfer, or if it's just part of the consideration at the time of the school budget that we don't, that we kind of give them that money, or the space, but nonetheless, it's something that has to come up. And it's on people's radars anyway. Thanks.
Questions or Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, and I don't know, Henry, if this is a question for you or to Councilor Laffin and Councilor Shortell. So that train station is not being used to board trains at all? Because in my mind, I thought the new train had a higher platform and the existing train had a lower platform, and I thought people were still boarding there. Am I incorrect? I'm not sure. I'm correct? So it's still
Not being used. Yeah, my understanding is that in order to get off the Amtrak at the historic train station, the conductor walked out and put a step stool down so that you could step down at a non-grade.
Oh, I see, okay.
And the trains that they're using actually do have, because you board New Haven at the same grade as the new train station.
Okay.
So they are using it for a week now.
Good, thank you.
Questions, comments from the public? I bring it back to the council. If there's nothing further from the council, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein,
Yes.
Laffin,
Yes.
Letourneau,
Yes.
Barone,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yep, motion passes. We have nothing for item 7, so executive session pursuant to item 8.
I move we go into executive session pursuant to section 1-225F and section 1-206B of the Connecticut General Statutes regarding strategy and negotiations with respect to the pending tax appeal matter of Bristol-Myers Squibb Company versus the town of Wallingford.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. I declare the council in executive session. Please kindly clear the council chambers. Call the meeting back to order. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
I move we come out of executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of coming out of executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the council back in public session. On to item 9.
I move we authorize the settlement in the pending tax appeal matter of Bristol-Myers Squibb Company versus town of Wallingford as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
yes, Fishbein,
No.
Laffin,
Yes.
Letourneau,
Yes.
Marone,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Chairman Cervoni,
Yes. Motion passes. There being no further business on the agenda, a motion to adjourn is appropriate.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare the meeting adjourned.